stress is fleet management does need to be improved, the entire city fleet, and home garaging needs to be looked at. We do have a specific recommendation in here that we should look at home garaging for people that are using it for commuting. That is a perk. I will certainly say that is a perk. I think that that's not common. In my experience, most of the home garage vehicles are used constantly for work-related purposes. So it's an idea that has to be explored. I think we need to explore it, but it's not going to generate a lot of savings for the current year.
And I think we need to be realistic, members, as we move forward. We do have an awesome situation and we have to deal with it, but we need to be realistic as well. In my office, we have the district broken up into regions or grids, and every day the members get in their car and they drive up and down every street and every alley to suggest that potholes be repaired, to pick up trash or bulky items that are on the street. And so I think we need to realistically have this discussion, in the public light, because to a certain degree, you might consider the cars that the council staff use as perks if you want to view it through that colored lens, but I personally don't think that that's the case. And so if this is not going to generate a significant savings, especially if you factor in what Tom LeBon said, we would then be paying mileage rates and things of this nature for employees. And then I think that it's easy for me to say to the people who work with me, get your butts up and get out in the district.
Let's open the roll on the rest. Close the roll. Tabulate the vote.
11 ayes.
And then item 3D is next.
If council wishes to take 3D and 4I.
Okay. Fine. You want to open the roll on 3D and 4I? Close the roll. Tabulate the vote.
10 ayes, 1 no.
Thank you.
The mid-year financial report included a PowerPoint presentation and a complete description of all recommendations. To view the entire presentation, just log on to the city's website and use the new City of Los Angeles Video on Demand feature. Just go to lacity.org and follow the instructions on the screen. Item 20 on Wednesday, February 27th, was a Trade, Commerce, and Tourism Committee report that would approve the Los Angeles Maritime Institute sponsorship of the Top Sail program. District 15 Councilmember Janice Hahn explains.
And as you know, my big issue has always been about preventing kids from joining gangs in the first place and providing real alternatives for after-school activities. A lot of times our kids get recruited into gangs because they have nothing to do and they're idle after school. Top Sail, my friends, is one of those great programs down in the harbor that takes kids, particularly kids who are at risk, although I would contend these days all of our young people are at risk, and they teach them how to sail. And nothing changes a kid's life or an adult's life more than actually being on one of these boats and sailing either to Catalina or somewhere else. You learn a lot about the open sea. You learn a lot about yourself. You learn a lot about what it takes to partner with other people to get your ship from point A to point B. And I want to congratulate the Port of Los Angeles for agreeing to co-sponsor this wonderful program to the tune of $1.6 million. So, colleagues, I'd like us to approve this. But one of the things that struck me, as we seem to be seeing an increase in gang violence, we seem to be seeing more of our young people who are at risk and don't have opportunities, particularly from South Los Angeles. I asked what it would take to expand this program so we could reach even more kids, and the answer back was money. And so I would like the Port of Los Angeles to come back to me and tell me how you can, I'm just going to say, double this amount, because I know for a fact one of the ships that they use is in disrepair and needs at least $1 million, I believe, to renovate it and get it back up to speed. Well, maybe less than that. But so I want to say, Mike Christensen, would you come back and report to us on how you might double this amount at least, so that we can reach even more kids, so that it fulfills one of the agendas that we all have, which is keeping kids from joining gangs in the first place. And you could be a big part of that. So I hate to look a gift horse in the mouth, but thanks for doing what you do, but could you double it?
Madam Clerk, if we could open the roll on item 20 and close the roll and tabulate the votes.
12 ayes.
Thank you.
Also on Wednesday, items 7, 8, and 21 were called special by Councilmember Hahn. All three items related to the Clean Air Action Plan at the ports of Los Angeles and Long Beach. Ms. Hahn explains what steps will be taken to improve air quality and change the way the ports are doing business.
These actions have to do with trucks, a major polluter in the harbor area and throughout this region. Item 7 today is a tariff charge which will eventually ban all aging, dirty trucks from servicing the ports of Los Angeles and Long Beach. And beginning later this year, we will systematically eliminate these trucks so that by 2012, no truck will enter the port that does not have clean emissions standards. This will mean the reduction of 7,000 tons per year of NOx emissions and up to 405 tons per year of diesel particulate matter. This is huge. Various studies have shown that this will reduce premature deaths and the risk of developing cancer, and certainly will help to control the epidemic of asthma that we have, particularly in the younger children and elderly in the harbor area.
And again, thank you, Ms. Hahn, for your leadership on this item. And with that, we're going to take the vote. So, Madam Clerk, please open the roll on items 7, 8, and 21. Close the roll and tabulate the votes.
12 ayes.
Thank you. Congratulations, Ms. Hahn.
And joining us now is District 15 Councilmember Janice Hahn. Ms. Hahn, welcome back to Council Week in Review.
Thanks, Jack. It's always good to be here.
We have so much to talk about this time. Let's start with the port. One of the busiest, the port complex, certainly the busiest in the country, and very important to the local economy.
Well, absolutely. You know, between the Port of Los Angeles and Long Beach, we account for about almost 45% of all the trade that comes into this country. And we know that it generates almost $2 billion a day to the national economy. It accounts for 500,000 jobs in our region. So it is really the economic engine of really our country. And it has global economy ramifications as well.
And the Council, as you know, approved several items that you brought up affecting the Port of Los Angeles, one being the Clean Air Action Plan. Generally, I don't think people believe pollution is associated with the port, but of course it is a big problem, as you know, has an impact even on the growth of the port. How will this Clean Air Action Plan help?
Well, it's true, and I think a lot of people don't realize it, but for instance, the ships that come into our ports contribute about 20% of all the air pollution in the LA basin. So when you look at a smoggy day and you're thinking it's just the cars and our manufacturing industry, it's really the port that is probably the major polluter in this region. And we know that all the dirty diesel trucks, about 16,000 of them, are coming in and really polluting the air in and around the port. And we also know a recent study showed that we have about 24 premature deaths annually that are directly related to cargo pollution. There's a higher risk of cancer and asthma in the harbor area. So pollution is a big problem. The Clean Air Action Plan has been adopted historically, and it's unprecedented that both ports, Long Beach and Los Angeles, agreed to this plan, which, when it's fully implemented, will reduce the emissions probably by close to 50%, which is huge.
And of course, obviously, some years ago, you also had some of the large ships coming in and plugging into shore power instead of keeping their engines running the whole time they were here.
Yeah, you know, it's called AMP, and it's the Alternative Maritime Power. And what we found was, besides the fuel that the ships burn while they're coming into the port, when they're in berth, these ships have to continue to operate. They have to keep the lights on. They've got a crew on board, and they were burning this bunker fuel while they were in port, and they burned about 7 tons of that every day they were in port, which is very unhealthy. So when they come in to the berth, if we can get them to retrofit their ships and we can retrofit our berths, they can actually plug in to the DWP electricity grid, which keeps their lights on and keeps their ships running for all the things they need to do while they're in dock without adding one single bit of pollution to our air. So we need to do more of that.
And part of the next step you were just talking about, the clean truck fee. Doesn't mean that the truckers have to wash and wax their trucks. What exactly does it mean? And by the way, who would be paying it?
Well, we are implementing a clean truck program, and besides the ships, we know that it's these old, dirty diesel engines that are really polluting our air. The Clean Truck program will be implementing a fee. It will raise about $1.6 billion that will help begin to retrofit and change over these old trucks into these cleaner technology trucks. By this October, we are actually going to ban all trucks that were like pre-1989 engines from even entering the port. And by 2012, every truck that enters the ports of Long Beach and Los Angeles has to meet these clean air standards, or they won't be admitted into the area. So it's a pretty significant program.
I think you were proposing $35 per container as the fee. Who pays for it?
Well, that'll be paid for by the shipping industry, and it'll be $35 per 20-foot TEU, which is a size of a container. Most of those containers are about 40 feet, so we'll get about $70 per container that comes into the ports, and that's going to help pay to retrofit these trucks.
By the way, how many trucks on a daily basis go in and out of the ports?
I think it's about 16,000. So we've got a lot of trucks coming in and out of our ports, and it will dramatically reduce the emissions, the NOx, the diesel particulates that are in our air, and it'll really clean up the area.
You were talking about replacement of the diesel trucks with trucks powered by liquefied natural gas. As I recall, help me with this, the LNG terminal in the port area, I thought, had been sidetracked for now.
Well, there is one project in the Port of Long Beach that is on hold right now, but there are other places that we can get LNG, and this program will actually, we will begin to contract out and replace about 117 trucks with LNG fueled trucks, which again is a cleaner way to do business in our trucks. We're also looking at the possibility of electric trucks, which will be, again, zero emission, and we're working on that technology. We think that's right around the corner so that these trucks will be really clean and add no pollution to the air.
Another thing we heard you talking glowingly about, of course, was the Top Sail program. Talk about that for a moment, if you would.
Well, you know, one of the things I'm trying to do in the city of Los Angeles is to really combat gang violence. And, you know, we've been fighting this war on gangs for 20 years, and yet we've arrested about 450,000 people. We have 7 times the number of gangs, twice as many gang members now as we did then. And even Chief Bratton says we can't arrest our way out of it. What we need to do in the city of Los Angeles is begin to focus more on the front end of a person's life. And if we can begin to provide real alternatives for these kids instead of joining a gang, then I think our money will be better spent. Top Sail is one of those great programs that's connected to the Port of Los Angeles. It is a nonprofit organization. It uses ships, the brigantines, and it teaches kids how to sail. And we know that some of these kids that they reach have never seen the ocean, have never been on a boat, and it really helps them learn self-discipline. It helps them learn how to work cooperatively with other people. You have to get from point A to point B. And it really gives them a glimpse, I think, of another kind of a life out there. So it's just a program I love and I really support. Port of Los Angeles is a sponsor of this program and is funding it, and I've asked the port to actually up their contribution so that we can reach more kids in Los Angeles from all over to enter into this program.
But I guess you said it comes from a nonprofit in the sense of dispensing the money, but yet the Port of Los Angeles sponsored it. Is this part of the cargo fees that the port collects that it then spends on the top sale program? Where does that come from?
Well, the port has shipping revenue. I mean, that's how the port operates. All the money generated in and around the port goes back into the port, and our harbor department in the state of Los Angeles operates the port. So yeah, it's the shipping fees, it's all this revenue, it's leases on their terminals, it's tariffs, it's all the operating revenues of the Port of Los Angeles. And I know the core mission of the Port of Los Angeles is to move goods, and I understand that. But I think this is a great way to connect this economic engine, with really investing in young people in Los Angeles. Because if we could solve this gang violence problem, then we're all going to be really better off. So I applaud the port for using some of their money to invest in this top sale program.
Of course, we just mentioned the general fund. At Tuesday's meeting, you were given a mid-year update. The report obviously not good. What's your take on the financial health of the city?
It's not only going to be a tough year this year, but we're going to have a worse year next year. We were presented with about a $150 million budget deficit this year, and we have been projected to have a $300 million budget shortfall next year. So it doesn't look good. The mayor has proposed some belt-tightening measures. The city council is putting forth their own belt-tightening measures. But in the scheme of things, we can do a lot of these measures, and it seems like we're only tightening our belt one notch. We've got to probably make some serious cuts or else figure out how to raise revenue in the city of Los Angeles.
The mayor also said, and I'm sure you have to agree with this, the sooner the better. Don't wait till the next fiscal year begins to start cutting.
Well, yeah, in fact, it looks like we probably should have been doing it even last year. We should have been paying a little bit more attention to our economy and to the downturn in the housing market. We're all pretty much committed to not cutting public safety. We still believe that for the vitality of the city of Los Angeles, we have to keep it safe. And one of the ways we can raise revenue is to encourage more tourism in Los Angeles, because we know that for every 4% increase in tourism, that equals about $12 million to our general fund. So, but tourists aren't going to come here if they don't think it's safe. So we can't cut police and fire, but we've got to really put in some measures that can make some cuts, but also figure out how to raise revenue.
If public safety is off the table, and presuming that you can't come up with, over the next 18 months, say, $600 million in new revenue, what else can we cut? What would you suggest?
Well, it's tough. I actually have encouraged our budget folks to go back to the table and look at how we can increase revenue, because I don't think we're doing a good enough job of trying to bring in more revenue. For instance, I suggested an oil extraction fee. Every time a barrel of oil is extracted from the city of Los Angeles, we could be charging a fee like other cities. Long Beach, for instance, charges about 40 cents per barrel. It raises them anywhere from $6 to $10 million. So that's something I think we should look at in the city of Los Angeles. We don't even really know at this point how many barrels of oil are extracted from the city of Los Angeles, but why not take a look at that? Why not charge at least 40%, maybe more, and raise ourselves a little more than $10 million? I also think it might be time to revisit the idea of opening up advertising or naming rights on some of our city property, some of our city vehicles. You can be sort of prim and proper about the idea of having other people's names on your vehicles until you go through a budget crisis. And then maybe we might consider relaxing that policy and seeing what kind of revenue we could generate by allowing people to advertise on our vehicles. I think we ought to look at everything. I don't want to cut libraries. I don't want to cut the services to people's sidewalks and streets. I don't want to cut basic services. So I want to figure out how we, on the other side, can raise the revenue.
And finally, I'm sure someone is watching this program saying, wait a minute, didn't we just pass Proposition S, the telephone users tax? That really didn't bring brand new revenue to the city budget, did it?
Well, no, that was revenue we were currently counting on our books, $270 million that we would have lost if Prop S had not been passed. That was monies we were pretty much accustomed to collecting, so we're very grateful to the voters for letting us continue to collect that. But that's a great example. That was $270 million, which we felt would have been a huge fiscal emergency if we were not able to collect that. This budget shortfall for next year, $300 million. So we're in a bit of a bad time right now.
Well, that really puts it in perspective, and we hope you'll help us follow along with this as all of these measures pass through during the course of the next year. District 15 Councilmember Janice Hahn, thanks for joining us on Council Week in Review.
It's always great to be here, Jack.
Again, all three items to improve air quality at the ports passed with a unanimous vote of 12 ayes. You can listen to city council meetings as well as committee and commission meetings on the telephone by using the city's council phone system. In the downtown area, dial 213-621-CITY. In West LA, dial 310-471-CITY. For the San Pedro area, dial 310-547-CITY. And in the San Fernando Valley, dial 818-904-9450. Just follow the recorded instructions for the meetings you want to hear. And we invite you to address the Los Angeles City Council on any item on the council agenda, as well as during public comment. You may come downtown to City Hall or go to the Van Nuys City Hall and participate via video teleconferencing. And remember, you can watch all Los Angeles City Council meetings live in their entirety on Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Fridays beginning at 10 a.m. On Sundays, you can watch the replay of all the week's meetings, also beginning at 10 a.m. Council Week in Review can be seen Monday through Friday at 9:30 a.m. and 6:30 p.m. On Saturday and Sunday at 9:30 a.m. Well, that concludes our program for the week ending February 29th, 2008. On behalf of Ted Lynn and everyone here at Channel 35, I'm Jack Popejoy. Thank you for watching, and please join us for the next Council Week in Review.
So they will have to take two, 'cause I've got trouble holding this man of mine. It seems there's always...
This is Los Angeles Mayor Antonio Villaraigosa. Please join me in celebrating African American Heritage Month. Whether you celebrate with a jazz concert or a poetry recital, with a special church service or an art exhibition, this is a month for all of us to examine our rich history and our even brighter future. For a list of festivities around the city, go to ahm.lacity.org.
Bulky item pickup? Call 311, the toll-free number for non-emergency services. 311, your one call to City Hall. Graffiti removal? Call 311, the toll-free number for non-emergency services. 311, your one call to City Hall.
LA City View Channel 35. Your city, your channel.
Good morning, Los Angeles, and welcome to the City Council meeting for Tuesday, March 4th, 2008. We're in the John Ferraro Memorial Council Chambers in room 340 of City Hall. We meet here every Tuesday, Wednesday, and Friday of the week at 10 a.m., except for when we meet on the first Friday of the month in Van Nuys City Hall. This Friday, we will be in recess in order to attend the National League of Cities meeting in Washington, D.C., where we will be lobbying on behalf of the City of Los Angeles on Capitol Hill. So this Friday we will not have a meeting, but we will be meeting on Tuesday and Wednesday of this week at 10 a.m. We not only meet here, but we are broadcast live on Channel 35, and we want to welcome our viewers on the city's cable system at LA City View, Channel 35. We're also rebroadcast each evening and available online through webcast at lacity.org and through your phone by using Council Phone, which is a number you can call to listen to the proceedings of the City Council. That number is 213-621-CITY. We have a quorum constituting two-thirds of the body, so Mr. Clerk, if you'll please call the roll.
Alarcon, Cardenas, Gruel, Hahn, Weezer, Labange, Parks, Perry, Reyes, Rosendahl, Smith, Weiss, Westenstein, Garcetti. 12 members present and a quorum, Mr. President.
All right, first order of business, please.
Approval of the minutes.
All right, Mr. Smith moves and Mr. Weezer seconds. We want to welcome Mr. Weezer back after his good news as well. Congratulations to him on the birth of a new child. We are very excited to have him back in chambers. Next order of business, please.
Commendatory resolutions for approval.
Mr. Alarcon moves and Mr. Cardenas seconds. Without objection, those will be approved as well.
Mr. President, this is Tuesday and there's a flag salute.
Mr. Labange, would you be kind enough to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance? If I can ask everybody to please rise in council chambers for our customary salute to the flag.
Want to lead us? Want to lead us? Oh, no, go ahead. Thank you very much, Mr. President, members, and those all gathered today in the John Ferraro Chambers. I ask you to put your right hand over your heart. Repeat after me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
If we can run through the agenda. Thank you, Mr. Labange. Did you have an introduction?
And a great Los Angeles City Council welcome to Paula West, who's the Chief of Protocol for the City of Phoenix and also a member of the Sister Cities International Board. Also Danita Howland, who is a member of the Sister Cities of International Staff, along with their special envoy of LA Inc. We're trying to invite them back in their whole convention of 2010. They're touring cities throughout the United States for an international conference.
Wonderful.
Please welcome our friends from Sister Cities International.
Thank you very much. And I was just with your council member Greg Stanton from Phoenix this past week, so absolutely. Please give him my best. Can we run through the agenda, please?
On the regular agenda, items 1 through 10 are items for which public hearings have been held. On item 10, there are 2 reports on file. Council may adopt both reports.
Okay. Let's go ahead and move both of those reports then. Anybody wishing to call any of these special? Colleagues, 1 through 10? 7 I will call special. And if there's no other specials, let's go ahead and take the balance. Please open the roll, close the roll, and tabulate the vote.
12 ayes.
Those are approved. Next items, please.
Items 11 through 23 are items for which public hearings have not been held. 10 votes are required for consideration, and motions are required on items 12 and 13 inasmuch as they were submitted without recommendation.
Okay, let's call 13 special. We have cards on the public. Ms. Hahn? 22 for Ms. Hahn. Are there specials, colleagues? Mr. Smith?
Item number 20, if we could receive and file it, there's a technical error in it.
Okay, we'll move to receive and file on item 20, if there's no objection. Other specials? We have no other cards besides on 13 right now, so we'll go ahead and open and close the public hearings on those. Yes, Mr. Weezer?
Thank you. Number 15, special, please.
Sure. Mr. Weezer, number 15. No other specials, colleagues? Yes, Mr. Labange?
12, please.
We passed 1 already. Do you want to reconsider it?
If I could, I walked our guests to the door.
Okay. We'll come back to that in a second. Number 12 for Mr. Labange. And we have some cards coming on which items? 20. Oh, we're not there yet. Any less than 24? 15. We'll call special as well with Mr. Weezer for cards from the public. All right. On the balance, let's go ahead and open the roll, close the roll, and tabulate the vote.
Ayes.
Okay, those are approved. If we can move to reconsider number 1 for Mr. Labange, please. If there's no objection, let's go ahead and open the roll, Close the roll and tabulate the vote.
12 ayes.
And we'll call
Excuse me,
that-
13 ayes.
Thank you. We'll call that special for Mr. Labange. And if we can go to the next items, please.
On the supplemental agenda, items 24 through 32 are items which public hearings have not been held. 10 votes are required for consideration.
Okay, we have cards on 24, 25, and 31. So we'll call those special for cards from the public. Open and close the other public hearings. Any specials, Mr. Reyes?
Item 24, please.
24 for Mr. Reyes. Mr. Smith?
Yes, number 6 go forthwith.
Okay, without objection, we'll send 6 forthwith. Any other specials, colleagues? Seeing none, let's go ahead on the balance. Please open the roll, close the roll, and tabulate the vote.
13 ayes.
Okay, those are approved. We can go back now to, is it public comment now? Okay, we'll start with Sky Anderson will be our first speaker. Welcome, Mr. Anderson. After that will be Lila Brooks. Good morning.
I'm Sky Anderson. I've been a resident of Los Angeles for 8 years. To me, we have 3 outstanding leaders in Los Angeles. We have Mr. Labange. He's taken up the issue of the Hollywood sign. I talked to the staff this morning, and they said they're raising funds because the people from Chicago are extorting us. They want $22 million for a piece of property that's been valued at $6 million. But I would suggest that you made your millions off of the entertainment industry, like Tom Cruise and other celebrities. You contact Mr. Labange and give him $1 million or $2 so they can save our precious landmark. The other hero is our police chief. I came to Los Angeles 8 years ago, and I was terrified of gangs. I stayed out of Los Angeles for years because I didn't want to come because I was afraid of gangs. And our present police chief has taken on the gangs in a very heroic stance. The third hero is Mr. Garcetti. I came to Los Angeles 8 years ago, and I went down Hollywood Boulevard, and it was a slum. Today, it's a thriving, beautiful entertainment community. I went by Hollywood and Highland on Sunday in the beautiful building at Hollywood and Highland. I was on the second floor, I believe, in front of Starbucks. And a little water fountain there that squirts up water. And there are 2 beautiful children playing in and around the water, just having the joy of their life. The lookalikes and the entertainment in Hollywood are a symbol of what Hollywood's about. Hollywood Boulevard and Highland are the symbol of what Hollywood is all about. Anyone can go there and get in a costume or be entertaining and make a little money and tell people the world what Hollywood is really. And all this came about because Mr. Garcetti, the city council person, has put his energy into making Hollywood a true entertainment community, and I want to thank him.
Thank you very much, Mr. Anderson. Appreciate the kind words. Lila Brooks is our next speaker. Bruce Darien will be after that in the San Fernando Valley. Ms. Brooks, if you'd like to come forward. Very good morning to you. And if you'll just move the microphone so we can hear you. Thank you.
Mr. President, members of the City Council, my name is Lila Brooks, founder of California Wildlife Defenders. A pit bull is a lethal weapon. It maims, mutilates, and kills family members, mainly children, other innocent people, and small animals. In the past, the Food and Drug Code, the Food and Agriculture Code, Section 31683, no laws could be enacted as to specific breeds of dogs. However, Senate Bill 861 changed all of that. That's why I'm confident that this council will heed my request, just as it has in 1988, when I pleaded with the council that one of my model ordinances be enacted. I have prepared, and it has been enacted, and it became the law. Last year I have pleaded with Mr. Box, the general manager of the Animal Services, but so far nothing has been done. That is why I'm here requesting a direct action by this council to enact the model ordinance I have submitted to you regarding pit bulls. In support of my request, I have put before you a list of 96 pit bull attacks, a shocking testimony how serious the situation is. If a mountain lion or a coyote is seen in a hillside community where he's supposed to be doing no harm, people get hysterical and summon the animal control.
Thank you very much, ma'am.
Animal control, and
Thank you.
an innocent animal is being shot and killed.
If you have any further testimony, we'd be happy to take that, but the clock, it's 2 minutes per person, so if you'd like to hand that to one of the Sergeant at Arms, we'll be sure to, or if you'd like to submit anything later, we'd be happy to read that, okay? Thank you very much. Our next speaker is Bruce Darien out in the San Fernando Valley. After that will be Donna Pearman, also in the Valley. Good morning, Mr. Darien.
Morning, Council President Garcetti and City Council. I wanted to talk about last Friday's paper of the Daily News. There's on the front page, a sacred cows run wild in City Hall. I think it should be rewritten that there's mad cow disease in City Hall here. I was informed recently by a city employee at City Hall that their number one concern is that what the departments do is they essentially dump their money towards the end of the budget year so that they're entitled to that amount of money or an increase the following year. And then this has been going on for quite a long time now, and the taxpayers should become well aware of this. There's numerous bonds that are put before the taxpayers regularly. There's constant increases in taxes, and the city is now crying that it has a $500 million deficit in its budget, and there's nowhere for this money to come from other than possibly trimming sacred cows. It needs to come to reality here that the city has to get real in how it's spending its money, and that if it is actually taking the taxpayers' dollars and dumping it and spending it on frivolous things so that it can attain the same budget amount the following year, the people need to take action with this. And I think the False Claims Act is a measure that could be used against public officials as well as private people that are being enriched from this fraudulent spending. Quite often the state and the federal government is earmarks money toward these programs to where there is a throughness for the funding, which creates jurisdiction for the state and federal government to use the False Claims Act appropriately on city officials or anybody else that would seek to spend the public's money under fraudulent circumstances. So we're going to look into this more and see just how the spending is done on the budgets and what is being purchased toward the end of the budget year to essentially dump the taxpayers' money. This is hard-earned money by the taxpayers, and it needs to be spent properly. Thank you.
Thank you. Donna Pearman is our next speaker in San Fernando Valley. After that will be Sharon Brewer. Good morning, Ms. Pearman.
Good morning. I'm Donna Pearman. I want to speak public comment, number 13 and number 25. Anyway, I missed you, Mr. Garcetti. Anyway, my friend, I wanted to say, why do a recess on Friday? You're not going to Van Nuys? Do you know the way to Van Nuys? Anyway, my friend told me about an article where the city council of the city wants to regulate that people can't smoke in their own residence because of secondhand smoking. Kids, I'm a non-smoker, and this law can't be enforced. It's a Nazi-type law. Do you really plan for the police to ask their way into people's homes to see if they smoke? We can't stop crimes like rape, robbery, vandalism, anti-Semitism, and racist attacks, yet you wish to take away their time regulating smokers. In the meantime, hard drugs are being taken to people's residence. Illegal drugs should be stopped, not legal smoking. It's a look-good, unenforceable law. We don't have the money to divert to the police. Remember, it's belt-tightening time for the city and its employees, not for developers, not for the CRA, not for the city council. It's cutbacks for the city of Los Angeles and its employees. It's fines and higher parking fees. Have a meter run to 10 o'clock. Take away the Sunday charge and charge $1. You would love it. Don't give anyone a break. Combine it with Prop S, you suckered people into that one, still you want blood. Trash fees, fine people for not cleaning up. What's next? Jaywalking fines? Is that only for African Americans? Shame on you. It's about getting as much money out of us as you can. We should unite Caucasians, Hispanics, African Americans, Asians, and others and say, we are mad as hell, we're not going to take this anymore. Thank you.
Thank you. Sharon Brewer is our next speaker. After that, we'll come back here, and Michael Carrion will be our next speaker. Good morning, Ms. Brewer.
Good morning. Sharon Brewer, public comment. This is regarding Council File 07-0600S77, Agenda Item Number 4, February 26, 2008, Mid-Year Financial Report. Parking meters. Want to increase the amounts to generate revenue, then you need to have no exemption for parking at meters, including city vehicles, hybrids, or disabled place cards. because those cars could be parked at the meters all day. In fact, in front of City Hall today, we've got 6 meters, I believe it is, with covers on them, so no revenue generated today. Sales tax question. Is everyone who sells items within the LA city boundaries required to collect sales tax? What about special events? Israeli festival, Persian New Year, farmers markets, events held at the convention center, staff cards. A comment was made that they need the car so that staff can drive around the council district looking for potholes, sidewalk problems, etc. Use the people that live in the council district to get information to the council office. Home garaged cars. I was told that home garaged cars must be within LA city limits. Are all these cars within city limits? Compensation to employees for incentives to generate revenue. Incentives should be come up with ideas or lose your job. They shouldn't be paid to go and come up with ideas. I don't get paid for it. Sacred Cow should look at neighborhood councils. A lot of the neighborhood councils have over $100,000 as February 1st, 2008. With only 5 months left till June 30th, 2007. I don't think that NC should be exempt. I know of an NC that because they have so much money left, they spent almost $12,000 for 2 mass mailings, even though only $4,000 was approved for the 1 mailing. Thank you.
Thank you. Michael Carrion will be our next speaker. After that is Matt Dowd. Mr. Carrion? Good morning.
Good morning. My name is Mr. Carrion, and I had a few questions for the City Council. How do you guys give a liquor permit so close to a school? Is this, like Mr. Rosenthal said, a sweetheart deal? This sweetheart deal has got me with cavities already. Does anybody here know anything about alcoholism? I do. I'm a recovering alcoholic. I'm a recovering addict. I've got over 11 years of sobriety. I know what alcohol does to people. But Mr. Reyes' office wants to put a bar, a restaurant, call a dog by any other name, it's still a dog, right across the street from a school. Why do you have city ordinances? I'll tell you why. So the normal person couldn't do what he wants, only the politicians can allow him to do what they want. Alcoholism is a disease. It is a disease that ruins families. So my question is, why are we putting a restaurant next door to a school and breaking the city ordinance that you guys put in place? No one wants to answer the question. I know why. It's all about the mighty dollar. In Spanish, we have a word for that, la mordida. Who is getting paid off here in City Hall? I don't know if it's you, Mr. Reyes, or the rest of the politicians.
He should be directing it to the whole council.
Somebody is getting paid off here for you guys to look the other way. I'm upset. I'm tired of this. Maybe alcoholism doesn't run in your families. Maybe you guys are all safe from it. But in Lincoln Heights, alcoholism is a problem. Yes, I'm not sitting here mumbling and holding my words. I'm mad as hell and I'm tired of it. This would not happen in West LA. This would not happen in Brentwood. But in Lincoln Heights, it's okay. Our councilman pushes for it. What next? Brothels in the high schools? This is ridiculous.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Matt Dowd. After that will be Michael Hunt.
Yeah, thank you. With respect to the body, I just want to say that the City Council is going to be in contempt of the federal judge by the end of this month because the federal judge said that he wanted our case settled, and he introduced the zone concept at Venice Beach. And we spent 12 months, but the city is forcing this judge now to rule against his wishes. Now I have, and this is important because we had Michael Hunt in here dressed up in a costume a few weeks back. And we pulled the plug on that out of respect because we thought some things were going to happen here. Just like the judge's secretary told us that the city council the attorneys recommend that you suspend the problem portions of that ordinance. That's last June. So your attorneys, Ms. Hahn, the attorneys need to go to LAX courthouse and file a motion to amend Michael Hunt's stay-away order, because he was happily operating on the beach with a Los Angeles permit when they came in with the bogus ordinance. And that bogus ordinance put him in jail, and then the judge ordered him off the beach. That's why he's here. And I'm going to keep coming back forever. But I'm the good guy today. I'm trying to be the good guy. You know what I'm like when I'm not. But it's going to be contempt of court. And we're filing for the motion for summary judgment this week. So by the end of the month, it's going to hit the fan. If you want to be in contempt of a federal judge, hey, we'll be rich. You go for it. Thank you.
Thank you. Michael Hunt is our next speaker. After that will be Lenny Fisher.
Well. He spelled it out pretty well, but I'm going to even spell it out better. In 1997, Bernard Parks lost in the Ninth Circuit to the same issue. Now, I want to go to LA Times, where it says jury awards $1.6 million to 2 white firefighters. Well, the black girl who was discriminated got 6.2 in a jury trial. We're 24 days away from a jury trial in the federal court. Mr. Hunt versus the city of Los Angeles. Well, we know what everybody think about Rocky. Rocky, he's got to go. Rocky Del got to go. He gets half of his votes from 65% from the black community, and he violates our rights. Well, that won't be happening too much longer. But what you guys should be worried about is encouraging the city attorney to settle out. In the Tony Pierce case, you guys 1.5, 1.3, and you guys offered him 2.7. Do the math. You guys spend the extra money. So you guys could have gave him the 2.7 and been rid of him. But you guys like spending money. The city of Los Angeles has a lot of money to spend. Well, that's okay too. I'll take it. However, I got to get it. But the campaign is on. You guys didn't appreciate me being good guy last week. So now I'm back to being bad cop. Bad cop will go all the way until the end of the week. We encourage you guys to get Rocky and sit him down and maybe shake him up. Maybe some rocks will come out his head. So, therefore, we're going to do a really great show all this week. Thank you, Mr. Hunt.
Our next speaker is Lenny Fisher. Lenny Fisher. Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Reyes. 1 second, Mr. Fisher. Mr. Reyes?
I just wanted to, item 29 forthwith in between.
Okay.
Thanks.
Without objection, we'll send that. Go ahead, Mr. Fisher. Thank you.
Good morning, Council. I operate a medical marijuana collective in the city and have done so for about 18 months. Our collective has never advertised in any way, shape, or form. We don't get listed all over the place. Our patients find us through doctors' lists. We faithfully signed up with the city to register and to follow the rules and to be legal in the city of Los Angeles. We now got a DAA letter in exchange. Somebody let the cat out of the bag. Somebody's dropped the ball. We need your help, Council. We need your help. We need to fight the DEA for coming into our city and telling us that sick people, dying people can't get their medicine. We need to stop these nonsense paramilitary raids. It needs to stop now. I urge you folks to go forward. Let's get back to work in the working group, and let's get this done.
Thank you, Mr. Fisher. That will close our general public comment for today. If we can go to the items called special, I think number 1, the issues have been cleared up, so if we can go ahead and take that up first, and we'll vote on that. Please open the roll on number 1, close the roll, and tabulate the vote.
14 ayes.
That is approved, and without objection, we'll send that forthwith. If we can skip ahead from 7 and go to the next one called special.
That is item 12, and that was called special by Councilmember Labange.
All right, number 12, we'll recognize Mr. Labange. And we still need a motion on that, is that correct? Okay. Mr. Labange.
Members, I ask your help. How disappointed are we when we see the murals of Los Angeles destroyed with graffiti and other vandalism. This particular motion here asks for help to try to restore them. Right now, we do not have any ability to correct the vandalism to the murals because our contractors only touch areas where there's no murals. Is there a representative from the department here would like to speak to this? Hold my time for a moment. Staff.
Good
Can
morning,
you give us a
Saul
rundown
Romo,
on this,
Public
please?
Social Affairs.
Please reintroduce yourself and give us a rundown on this.
Good morning, Saul Romo for the Department of Cultural Affairs. The department was requested to identify some funding for murals restoration and for our murals work, and the department did some preliminary work, and we identified that in order to conduct any restoration efforts on murals, we would need to conduct a survey to identify which murals have any protective coatings on them, and we identified that about a $50,000 survey would be needed to identify which murals in the city of Los Angeles would necessitate a protective coating. Additionally, we identified that about $75,000 would be needed to conduct some restoration work on at least 5 to 6 murals currently within the city that are in desperate need of some restoration work.
Can you mention where those murals are?
Well, we identified that there are some murals in Council District 10, there are some murals in Council District 13, and the rest of them escape me at the moment. My memory is not as good as it was a few weeks ago. At the moment, the department only has in its current budget $20,000 for its murals program. But unfortunately, the department is trying to offset some deficits, and we are holding in abeyance those funds pending the outcome of our budget for this particular fiscal year. So at this point, we do not have the $125,000 within our budget for these programs.
Let me ask if the CAO or the representative could sit here. Just a question on this issue here. Hi.
Diana Mangiolo, Office of the CAO.
Yeah. On this issue here, we're in a budget crunch. This is a value, though, to see this art destroyed. Instead of the $50,000, could we reassign staff to do this work, or how could we find a way? We need $75,000 to restore them. We need $50,000 to do the survey. If there's any way within our internal staff, or even members, even our own council offices, I'm just understanding the plight of the budget. You don't have $125,000 sitting around for this.
No, we don't.
Right.
But if, in order to find, to reassign staff, we would basically have to also reallocating or moving monies from one project to another. So if council decides to make some sort of a policy decision to decrease services in one area to fund this project, then that's an option.
Let me ask you a question. Can we, with the Office of Community Beautification, they get considerable sums for the graffiti abatement to a variety of contractors for that. Could we ask that we could try to pull some money back from that?
I think there's a meeting, I believe there's a meeting that's scheduled in the next 2 weeks, so we do plan on meeting with Public Works to discuss this issue to see if there are any other options that may be available.
Right. Mr. President, can I ask you for some guidance here on this? You know, you're very passionate about the art and the murals that have been destroyed on this case here. Cultural Affairs needs $50,000 to do a survey. What if we send this back to committee and we send a directive out to all staffs to survey your districts in the next 60 days, come out with where the murals are so we could have them identified, save the $50,000, and then try to scrape up $75,000 or whatever the cost would be to restore it. I don't think we could do a study, but I know I have a deputy, and I know I have myself as well could identify it. Could I second a friendly amendment that the under the direction of the President of the City Council, that council officers be asked to survey their districts and report back to 60 days, and we send this back to committee. I don't see in my mind ability for the Cultural Affairs Department to try to get $50,000 for a study when we need $75,000 to do the work. I'd rather help you do the study and then come back to try to find some money. How's that sound, Mr. President?
We have a motion and a second to send it back to committee for 60 days and then to recommend doing the survey within council offices.
Per council office.
Okay.
And would it be appropriate, Mr. City Attorney, that the chair of the committee send a letter out, or the president of the council?
You could do it, Mr. Labange.
Okay, so we could do that.
Absolutely.
So, members, I need your help. I know you, Mr. Rosendahl, very passionate. Where are the murals in your district? Where you want them restored? And let's fight to restore them. And also, Cultural Affairs, let's reach out to Caltrans. Judy Baca's work underneath Grand Avenue, which is the gateway to downtown, has been damaged and violated, and we have to do something. We got to do that. It's a horrible thing to see art destroyed.
We'll do the outreach, and the meeting with Public Works is scheduled for March 18th.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Ms. Hahn, for that motion.
All right, Mr. Huizar is our next speaker. After that, Mr. Reyes.
Thank you very much. And Tom, let me give you, this is a great idea to do this. I have a mural in my district that was defaced with graffiti, and we're now looking for $40,000 to do that. And what you're doing here is you're asking for $50,000 for a survey to identify those that need that protective covering. If we don't invest in that now, it's going to go up from the $75,000 that you're asking for to correct those other 5 murals, because there's going to be a lot more that are going to be defaced if they don't have that protective covering.
Right.
If the one mural in my district had that protective covering, we wouldn't be looking for $40,000. We probably would have been looking for some touch-up or whatever it costs to delete that graffiti from the mural. So this is a wise investment that will save us a whole lot more money later on. Not to mention that we must do everything to protect the murals that exist in the city. This is where some of the mural movements throughout the United States started, here in the city of Los Angeles, particularly for Chicano art.
Right.
This is where it started in the city of LA, and we've got to do whatever we can to protect those murals. So thank you, Mr. Labange, for this. This is excellent.
Thank you, Mr. Huizar, sir. I look forward to working with your deputies on this.
Mr. Reyes.
Thank you, Madam President. I wanted to also stand and support my colleague, Councilman Labange, on this. On Daly and Broadway, we have this amazing mural. It's called Time Travel, Mr. Wayne Healy, one of the original muralists back in the 60s. There's a group called the Streetscapers, and they went about in Boyle Heights, Lincoln Heights, and other parts of the city. And these murals are not just drawings or pretty pictures. They've become a part of the fabric, the history of the Chicano movement back in the 60s and early 70s. And they continue to be there. Unfortunately, because of our, I believe, breakdown in our education system, we have failed to celebrate these murals and let them deteriorate. I know I allocated close to $25,000 to restore that mural on Daly and Broadway. So several years ago, there are many other murals of that stature that have been painted over or so badly defaced by taggers that it just shows how disconnected we've allowed this city to become when our own young people from our own neighborhoods aren't familiar with the history of these great murals. And those murals are about the history of our cultures here in this city, if not in this country. And it's amazing to me because these artists took it upon themselves, in particular Mr. Healy. That mural was about the 100-year celebration in 1976. While throughout the mainstream, they weren't talking about Chicano history. They were talking about the Mexican history. And that's what they depicted on this mural. It's a story about pride, self-esteem, improving our community. So the benefit is beyond the $25,000 to $35,000. It's really about creating a new environment, a historic environment, an environment we can rebuild our self-esteem in our own youth, in our own history. So, Councilor Labange, we touch on this issue. Some people think it's just a painting, when in fact they are memorials to our history. And that's something we need to preserve. So hopefully we'll make it a much more higher priority than we have in the past. So I appreciate what you're doing.
Thank you. Mr. Rosendahl.
Yes, thank you, Madam President. And I sure do stand in support of this. First question for you is, what kind of murals do we have in my district? Do you know, in the 11th district?
I do not have that number off the top of my head, but if you would like, I could provide breakdown of all the murals for all the council districts.
Venice is one area that the murals have been a huge, as Ms. Labange talks about, historic contribution to our quality of life. Judy Baca lives in my district in Venice and is engaged in all these issues. So I want to know exactly what we're looking at in terms of restoration in my district. There have been community groups that have restored some of them. There's been partnerships with the private sector as well, but I'd like to get a sense of that. And obviously, murals are a part of our culture, our history, and part of our community.
I could certainly report back to you with a breakdown by council district of all the murals, if you'd like.
Good. I look forward to that. And thank you, Mr. Labange, for your leadership on this.
Thank you very much, Mr. Rosendahl. We do have one public speaker card, Bruce Darien, out in our San Fernando Valley office. City Hall. Mr. Darien.
Madam President Gruhl, it brings me great pride to explain to the people of Los Angeles that it was in 1993, just shortly after the riots, that I took on the responsibility with others helping of painting out all the graffiti from the McClure Tunnel up to Ventura County line. The City of Malibu awarded me with the city commendation for my efforts using my Graco gas-powered airless equipment, getting donated paint from down in El Segundo. And we did the job. We answered the call. What I propose now is that I'm willing to come forward as a contractor and donate my services and my Graco pump to putting on that protective coating on these murals. But what's important is that all of those murals need to be photographed, and they need to be in each council district's office so they know exactly which murals are in their district, and they should by now know that. My hat's off to Councilmember Labange for holding back on spending that money. I think that the call needs to be put out to contractors to come forward and assist the city in protecting our treasures here. This should not have gone on to the extent that it has, and it's time now that we take action, as we can see is happening. What I'd also like to point out is that Monochem, which is a manufacturer of this protective material, is distributed through Dunn Edwards, is a material that's sprayed on. It's a clear material that will protect these murals. Why it was not done before, I don't know, or to what degree it has, but all murals should have that. Being a past student of Grant High School and then our family moving to Tarzana, graduating from Taft, I can tell you that down at Grant High School in the LA River is one of the finest murals there is around, and also down in the Palisades. So our murals are important. They need to be protected, and I'm calling on the citizenry, fellow contractors, to come forward, bring their equipment out, work with the city. The city can purchase the materials, and contractors can come forward and spray this protective material on once we have volunteer artists come back and those that originally painted it and restored that, if they are available, or bring others in. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Darien. Mr. Labange.
This is going back to committee. The $50,000 request will be put on the table. We're going to organize our deputies. We're going to work with the Cultural Affairs Department. We're going to ask our neighborhood councils to identify it. Are there any murals in the 12th, Mr. Smith? Good. So we could get them spotted and make sure that we do it. I just asked that because I know that murals in the 3rd. Mr. Zine?
Yes, Mr. Labange, and while you talk about murals, there's a beautiful mural on Ventura Boulevard at a car wash.
Right.
Let's make sure that we do the proper permits so we don't have the problem that we have at the car wash, where the beautiful mural didn't have a permit. Now the city's saying you can't have it.
That's in your district, Mr. Zine? You can straighten it out?
No, it's not.
No, it would be in my district.
I know.
But I do get my car
I was
washed.
trying to lay them out there, Madam
Yes,
President. I was
we're
trying to lay
working
them
on
out,
it.
but
Thank
he
you,
said it
Mr.
right
Zine.
to you. Picking on Wendy like that, Mr. Zine. I can't believe
I think he's
that.
supportive. They have to follow the rules.
Yeah. He'll do the motion. So we got an action plan. Yes. And we're going to do action, and I'm going to try to have this back to us in 60 days. We'll schedule it in the next Art and Parks Committee meeting. I'll ask that you assign a deputy to come to the meeting so we can really go out, and I have to drive the van, I will. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Labange. Being that what we will do is send it back to committee, so no vote required on that item. Next item.
Item 7, called special by Councilmember Garcetti.
Mr. Garcetti.
Thank you very much, Madam President. And colleagues, we had this in the Rules and Government Committee. It passed unanimously. We know how widespread domestic violence is and continues to be for people of all races and classes. Studies show that 1/3 of women will experience physical or sexual abuse by a husband or boyfriend in their lifetime, and they're often unable to financially support themselves, the survivors of domestic violence, and their children, which contributes to them staying in an abusive relationship. Many states have taken action to help survivors retain their financial independence, but the job protections that exist vary dramatically from state to state. Victims of domestic violence often need to take time off from work to attend a court hearing, get an injunction, receive assistance from a victim's advocate, or to arrange for housing at a shelter. In 21 states, when a survivor is forced to quit a job due to abuse, she is not eligible for unemployment. In 21 states. Our great representative, whose district we are sitting in right now, Representative Lucille Roybal Allard, with Representative Poe, introduced H.R. 414, the Insurance Non-Discrimination Act for Survivors, H.R. 4015, the Job Protection for Survivors Act, and H.R. 4016, the Unemployment Insurance for Survivors Act of 2007. These would, simply put, prohibit discrimination in insurance coverage to survivors of domestic violence, dating violence, or sexual assault or stalking. 2 would provide job protection to victims and prohibit employers from basing hiring decisions on an individual's history of domestic violence. And then 3rd, provide unemployment insurance to those who are separated from their employment as a result of domestic violence, dating violence, sexual assault, or stalking. These 3 bills, H.R. 4014, 4015, and 4016, address really key economic factors that I hope as we go to D.C. we'll be able to lobby on. I hope that those who are listening and who are watching this can also contact their representatives in Congress and urge them to pass H.R. 4014, 4015, and 4016, and allow the survivors to leave these abusive relationships by providing victims of abuse with employment protections that should be enjoyed. So I urge your support today, and thank you all for the passage of this resolution.
Thank you very much, Mr. Garcetti. I know this will be unanimous of the City Council. So with that, Madam Clerk, please open the roll, close the roll, and tabulate the votes.
14 ayes.
Thank you. Next item.
Item 13, call special for cards from the public.
Yes, we could go back out to our San Fernando Valley City Hall. Our first individual would be Donna Pearman.
Yeah. Hi, I'm Donna Perriman. Thank you. It's another unenforceable, look good, feel good measure. Do you really want to check everyone that uses the dog park? Should everyone bring their dog's license and let the dogs run in a dog park? Or do we check them at random opening the doors to lawsuits that you only check certain people? Do we really have the money to do it, or do we divert the 22 police to check dog licenses, or do I have one at the gate and turn people away who didn't know to bring their licenses? You want people to license their dogs. If they don't run in the park, they will run around at the basin where no one cleans up after them. They kill wildlife, and no one to stop them, and some scare people. I love dogs and want them to run freely in an area designated for that purpose. I don't want to stop dogs from poor people from running around. Only people who can afford to have licenses have dogs that run, or do we give them free to poor people and have the hardworking people like me pay the difference? I shouldn't have to. I don't believe this law will work. Vote no on this measure, or take it to committee and beat it to death, or at least inform the people ahead before you do this. Not everybody watches Channel 35. Thank you.
Yes, Michael Hunt, followed by Matt Dowd.
Well, thank you on the dog issue. I can't go to the park because I'm a dog. The license, I don't think should be committed or permitted. I think that all dogs should be able to go to the park. So, on this note, that the license for the dogs, no license for the dogs. Just think, I'm a dog, I need a license to go boo-boo? Yes. No license for the dogs. And all dogs, long as their owners pick up their poop, should be allowed in any dog park without a license. Woof! I think that the pooper scooper is good enough as long as you use it. Woof! So now, how I really feel about the dog park, all dogs, no license, feel free to poop at the dog park. Woof! You can call me Dr. Putin Waddle. I am with the Waddle Festival for the dogs. Woof! Poot Waddle is a name. Pick up your dog mess is a game. License or not, your dog should still be able to go to the park. Woof! That's a good ordinance. No license for the doggy dogs. Woof! Thank you.
Thank you very much. Matt Dowd.
Yeah, that was Mike Hunt, Channel 35.
Mr. Hunt, if you...
I'm Mr. Dowd, Mr. Attorney.
Or Mr. Dowd, please refer to that individual as either Mr. Hunt or Michael Hunt. The council president should warn him that that kind of language is disruptive and he should not discuss it again.
His name, Mike Hunt, is disruptive?
That is disruptive because you're doing it just for disruptive reasons and it is causing a disruption.
Wow, you're getting inside my head, Mr. City Attorney. Reset the clock.
It's a
Let me
scary
talk
place
about
to
the
be.
dog park. See,
I'm sorry, Madam President, can you warn him not to repeat that?
Yes, as indicated, that is your first warning.
for what exactly is it for? Please let me get this on the record. I need to know what this one's for.
What,
Because
Miss-
now I am
what,
angry,
Miss-
so tell me.
Mr. City Attorney, describe to you exactly how you should refer to Mr. Hunt, and that the other ways in which you have described him is inappropriate and disruptive. So please go ahead. Your time is still going to be going on.
So, yeah, well, this is going to be another one for the attorney. Look, jury awards $1.6 million. What's going to happen when the dog park lawsuits come in, Mr. City Attorney? Try get me off the topic on that. You know what? I was down the Venice Dog Park the other day, and I was with my beautiful wife. In fact, Channel 35, Matt Dowd's announcement, I got married last Friday, and I was with my wife at the dog park. Because I love the protection that you get now, because the city is obviously going to look for, any excuse to try and discredit us when we go to jury. But I was at the dog park with the dogs, and I was having trouble determining which ones were licensed and which ones weren't. But obviously, you got the staff here right now to be out there, looking. I know what it's all about. It's just another way to make a business, make more money, because the city's in debt. Big time, because you've mismanaged the fraud, waste and abuse, the affordable housing rackets with the developers. It's all connected to the city's performance. And you can scratch your head again, Mr. City Attorney.
He seems to be off topic regarding the dog parks.
So this licensing thing, woof! Actually, I like that, the wolf thing. That was funny. But yeah, we're heading for the summary judgment, bro. You're in contempt.
Thank you very much. This item is now before us. Madam Clerk, please open the roll. Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Smith. That's right. Correct. You have to do the motion.
Yes, I have to move the motion. I'm so moved. Move the report.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, now open the roll, close the roll, and tabulate the votes.
14 ayes.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Smith. Next item.
Item 15, called special by Councilmember Weezer, and there are cards on that item.
We'll go with the cards first, if that's all right with you, Mr. Weezer. Matt Dowd and Michael Carrion.
Yeah, I'm at the public comment. Wait. Shh.
You gotta stop being lazy for one day.
Okay, I want to talk here on item number 15. This is a resolution to oppose cuts to public education. Finally, we're taking control of education away from the mayor. His failed attempt to take care of education in this city, but yeah, it's a statewide problem, and I've talked about it before. It's got to do with pollution, contaminants in the air, get into children's lungs, travel to their brain, kill brain cells. So yeah, education's a big issue, and it's going to take a lot of money, but it's money well spent. So we need to get the money and spend it in the community on the infrastructure to get rid of the trucks and ease the traffic problems. And that's going to be a benefit for the whole community, because that'll be state and federal money that we can spend, and it goes into the community. But yeah, we have to stop with the front-end loading of the contracts with the developers, the affordable housing thing. It's all a scam, but I'll stay on the topic of the education. I'm trying to educate the kids. This is how you do it at City Hall. You've got to make a fuss. You've got to do something a little unusual, because everybody's sitting here reading the paper about how the the white captain's got $1.6 million in a jury trial. They're not paying attention, but that's okay. Read up about what juries do in this town. It's great reading. And Zuma Dog will give you a hootie hoo.
Thank you. If we can now hear from our next speaker, Michael Hunt. Mr. Carrion.
Yes, my name is Mr. Carrion, and we're talking about cutting money for the public education. What are children going to do when the money's cut? I know they'll go to a penny arcade. They'll get addicted on gambling. Our children at Lincoln High School are into yellow. If you guys are aware of the color code, yellow is poor. And you want to build a restaurant serving liquor and a penny arcade across the street, which is supposed to be against the rules, your rules. Yet, you want to cut more money from the budget, so when they have nothing to do, they're going to go hang out in the penny arcade where liquor is sold. I don't understand this. I would appreciate if somebody here stands up for the little people, for the people that elected you to office. There were over 200 people at this meeting the other night against this Cry project.
I'm sorry,
we stood there
if you
to
could make sure we talk about
educated related.
this is a specific resolution to oppose the cuts in the state budget. So
Well,
we understand your point on the other one. You're
hold my time,
totally
please.
welcome to talk. I'll give you extra time, don't worry. But if you could just focus it on that, we'd appreciate it. That's what we have to do under state law. So thank you.
If the budget's cut, these kids are going to be in a penny arcade. Because remember, it's only a penny. How do people get addicted? You give them a free one. You give them free drugs. You start at pennies and nickels. And then when they're addicted, they go out and buy top dollar stuff. You cannot allow the budget to be cut in public education. These children need our assistance. We are the adults here. Let's step up to the plate and do the right thing. Most of you people are in the $90,000 to $100,000. Your children may all be in private schools. Most of them. Not all of you. Most of you. But for the rest of the people who are not, please stand up and do the right thing for them. They need their help. Public education is the only outlet that some of these children in poorer communities have.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it, Mr. Carrion. Mr. Hunt.
Yeah, let's talk on this. The kids, the education, the stock market's down 200 points today, and we're trying to teach our kids good, healthy education, but yet you guys still keep on cutting the budget. How will they ever learn about their First Amendment rights? The constitutional rights to go to school, to be protected, to understand what they should really be doing if you guys keep on cutting the budget.
So this is about state cuts to the budget, so if you could focus on that.
Okay,
Thank
well,
you.
state cuts in the budget. Well, state cuts come from the Constitution. You can't teach kids constitutional rights if you keep on cutting the state budget.
Just as a point of information, we're not cutting. This is about the state government cutting right now. We don't fund
but you
education.
guys are part of the government system. So you guys have every right to protest that wherever they cut in the state budget. I mean, it's you guys that's representing the city of Los Angeles, where they keep on cutting the state budget for education. How will my child learn about the Bill of Rights, the Constitution, if the state keep on cutting the budget and my council people don't say nothing? I mean, this is so amazing where we can give out money for lawsuits, but we can't talk about the cuts that are going on from the state. I think each and every one of you guys should be in Sacramento lobbying that we get more money for the kids, the state budget, so that our kids, perhaps our kids can learn about the First Amendment, the Bill of Rights, the Constitution, what they're protected up under, and about educating them about when they get to be old, they can provide more state money for their kids. I think that's important. Don't cut the state budget.
That will close our public comment. Mr. Wesson, Mr. Weezer is first on the list. Did you want to say something else?
Yeah, maybe, Mr. President, I could ask Mr. Weezer a question.
Sure.
When we vote today, what are we actually voting to do?
Thank you very
Absolutely.
much.
Mr.
Thank you very much,
Mr. Weezer.
Mr. Weston. And I was going to begin with just that. What's before us is a resolution to officially oppose the proposed cuts that the governor is making on public education. I wanted to make it clear that the City of Los Angeles is no way advocating for cuts to public education, but what is before us is that the governor has proposed to cut $4.4 billion from public education throughout the state of California. LAUSD, which educates the same children that live and play and spend time here in the city of Los Angeles, would receive approximately a $460 million cut to their budget next year. When I was on the Board of Education, we made some pretty dramatic and drastic cuts, and I thought that was the worst of it. But this is the worst I've ever seen. When I was on the Board of Education about 3-4 years ago, we cut $400 million 2 years in a row, and about $200 to $300 million 2 years additional after that. Can you imagine what that does to the quality of education for our young people, many of them who are on free or reduced lunch? About 75% of our students come from poverty or live near poverty. Many of our students, yes, this is their only ticket out of poverty to get a good education and do something of themselves and do something for their community. So, ladies and gentlemen, I know I don't need to do much convincing about how important it is for us as a city to say, let's not wreck the dreams of our young people. Let's make that investment now and not pay for it later. We've seen study after study how it shows that the more dropouts we have, the less we invest in education, the more we will pay later in crime and other social service programs. It's just appalling to me that one day California, years ago, was considered and was the envy of the rest of the United States because we invested more on students on a per pupil basis. We went from being number one in 25 short years to being the 38th, or some even argue the 48th state in terms of per pupil funding for our students. Ladies and gentlemen, let's send a strong message to the governor that we will not tolerate these cuts. If we make these cuts, if the governor and the legislature makes these cuts, it would be the equivalent to closing 22 high schools and having 5,700 employees fired. Let's not continue to deteriorate the quality of our education here in L.A. and the state of California. We need a strong message to the governor and the legislature that we will not tolerate this. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Weezer. We can open the roll on this item, close the roll, and tabulate the vote.
14 ayes.
That is approved. Next item, please.
Item 22, called special by Councilmember Hahn.
Ms. Hahn, item 22.
Thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues, this item before us today allows us to pay tribute to the great Congresswoman Juanita Millender McDonald. In voting yes today, we'll be giving our support for House Resolution 4132, which is sponsored by Congresswoman Laura Richardson, and which would designate a portion of Route 91 as Juanita Millender McDonald Highway to memorialize her commitment to the people of the 37th Congressional District. the state of California, and the nation. Juanita was an educator, and I think she would be right here with us in this fight that you're putting before us today, Jose, in terms of cutting funds for public education. She began as an educator and then went on to become a Carson City Councilwoman, and it ended as a 7-term Congress member. She was one of the strongest, most driven women that I ever knew. I was always proud to stand with her and fight for our common goals, both for the people of Watts and for the residents who live near our ports. Juanita was committed to raising the awareness of HIV and AIDS, especially among black women. For 10 years, she held an annual AIDS walk at California State University Dominguez Hills that raised more than $2 million. She was a strong supporter in the beginning and helped push through the Alameda Corridor project and fought to keep the Boeing C-17 project in Long Beach. And I really appreciated her tenaciousness, is that a word? In her passion and her commitment to keeping Martin Luther King Jr. Hospital open in the community of Watts. She was always holding public hearings. She was pressing to keep the federal funds coming to that hospital, and she knew how important access to health care was for the people of South Los Angeles. Juanita Millender McDonald was a true public servant, and I urge us to vote yes on this today to support this honor, which I think is absolutely appropriate for her work as a public servant. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Hunt. Anybody else wishing to be heard on this? If not, please open the roll, close the roll, and tabulate the vote.
14 ayes.
Okay, next item, that is approved.
Item 24, called special by Councilmember Reyes, and there are cards on this.
Okay, do you want to take the cards first, Mr. Reyes? Or? Okay. All right. We have Matt Dowd as our first speaker. You have 1 minute left, Mr. Dowd, and then Michael Hunt also with 1 minute left.
Okay, I'd like to waive my comment on this one,
Okay,
and
Mr.
thank you. And
Hunt is our
take
next speaker.
My next one.
Mr. Hunt?
Yes, if you can correct it, Mr. City Attorney, I have 2 minutes left. I haven't talked as much, but...
Go ahead, so you have 1 minute.
I have 1 minute left? Okay, well... You know, when I come to City Council and I save energy, every time I go to the bathroom, I turn the lights off. Every time I use the restroom at City Council, I make sure the lights are off. That lets you know that I'm saving energy for you guys. The whole energy thing is about like turning some of these lights off up there. You know, when you go to the bathroom, you should try it. Just turn off the lights. It saves energy. On that note, I think that that's the costly thing is every time you go to your office, turn off a light. And when you go to the restroom, use it in the dark. It's okay.
All right, Mr. Reyes is our next speaker from the council.
Thank you, Council President. On these items, you can't help it, man. We just want to refer numbers 53, 54, 118, and 125 to the Ad Hoc River Committee. That's it. On attachment A.
Thank you. Without objection, we will go ahead and refer those.
I try.
With all lights on, don't worry. Please open the roll, close the roll, and tabulate the vote.
14 ayes.
That is approved. Next item, please.
Item 25, called special for cards from the public.
Okay, we'll go out to Van Nuys. Donna Pearman is our first speaker. After that will be Sharon Brewer.
Okay. Anyway, I see you put fee waivers on supplemental agenda. I didn't see that, but my good friend Miriam saw it. Another trick so people won't speak on it. We see huge fee waivers and a belt tightening time. Have more fees and fines so we can waive these fees. The one that caught my eye is St. Francis de Sales School Fair, $5,199. Our Lady of Lourdes School Annual Family Fun Days of $5,967. Why should non-Christians have to pay for this? Here's a huge one of 25th annual Black History Parade, 10,638. As said earlier, take care of the real concerns that African Americans have. Don't sell them a parade. Parade is only for a day. Again, and Watts Community Street Festival for $13,494. Watts could use that money in better ways. Yet it's only a 2-day event. Run and one for the innocent, 4,882. Don't even say what that means. It looks as though these people have these events so we can waive them. They can't afford it otherwise unless we do. How about making WAMU waive people's fees if they go below accidentally for 1 day and charge way over cards companies waive fees? You get hit later at tax time. The reason last week I spoke real fast is because you passed these fees so quickly. So here it goes. It's been approved. How about having sponsors pay for these events themselves, or do without? Please say no on these fee waivers. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Sharon Brewer is our next speaker.
Hi, Sharon Brewer. Item number 25, special event fee waivers. You have 9 total, 8 with amounts, $44,664, 1 to reimburse. You have 5 after the event. Again, council file 052467-S1, approved motion triggers city's liability insurance coverage for events. I noticed when I tried to find out about when you click on the council file number, you end up coming up with there were no documents available at the time the agenda was released. However, documents may be added at a future date. Please continue to check the council file index for updates. I don't understand why there aren't any motions to where people can look at the events, so obviously I can't go and comment on each event. Regarding 25E, which is the February 24th, $10,638 for the annual Black History Parade. Back on the February 27th, there was the same council file, 08-0416, but it was called Slauson Western Youth Enrichment Program 25th Annual Black History Parade with no amount. Is this the same event? Just now we have an amount put in? That's a question. I know that's not question and answer period, but it's kind of confusing. And how long will somebody have to wait before the documents for these events, except for the E, become available for the public to see? And just a comment, there are more lights out in the bathroom, especially the person that spoke about it.
Thank you, Ms. Brewer. That will close our public comment on this item. If we can please open the roll, close the roll, and tabulate the vote.
14 ayes.
Okay, next item, please.
Item 31, called special for cards from the public, and an amending motion has been circulated.
Okay, we just have one speaker card in Van Nuys, Sharon Brewer, on 31.
Okay, item number 31. One question is, when you end up doing an amending motion, we here at Van Nuys, or the public, don't know what that amending motion is. This is regarding clarifying recommendations in the 2007 mid-year financial status report, is to instruct the CLA to ensure that funds deposited in the unappropriated balance for the Heritage Month Celebration Program are distributed as earmarked for the following: African Marketplace, $50,000, NAACP Theater Awards, $50,000, Spoken Word, $15,000, Coliseum July 4th Fireworks Show, $60,000, Pan American Film Festival, additional $25,000, and Latino Film Festival, additional $25,000. Also, $7,500 for the Heritage Month celebration for the Women's Global Research and Development Initiative. My question is whether or not, where did this money come from that was deposited in the unappropriated balance, which adds up to $232,500? Or did this money come from the general fund as special event fee waivers? Thank you.
Thank you. We have Matt Dowd. 1 minute, sir.
Yes, thank you. Trying to come down here and have serious comment. It's turning into a clown show. It's a circus. I don't know what's going on here. Channel 35, I hope you're going to stay with me on this, but they're losing it. But I want to talk about this one now because I've got 45 seconds left. Now, yeah, this is an expensive month. It's the African American Heritage Month, and it's expensive. But that's okay because they were discriminated against and still being discriminated against. So I hope you are offended by the shirt, and I hope you're offended by the name, and I hope you're offended by everything because I'm offended.
He doesn't appear to be on topic here.
If we could ask your comments on the financial status report, sir, in the last 10 seconds.
Well, I really just came here to talk about my cunt.
All right, sir, you've been warned about that repeatedly, and that is not protected speech. Actually, things that are of a sexually obscene nature are not protected, and we have the council policy on that. So as you return, that will be a violation of our existing policy. Thank you. Next, if we can take a vote on that, and if we can have him removed for that. Thank you. Please open the roll, close the roll, and tabulate the vote.
14 ayes.
Thank you. And just to reiterate, that came after a series of warnings on non-protected obscene speech that's also listed on the council podium as well to inform folks, and we apologize to our viewers. If we can take up next order of business, please.
Mr. President, there is a special one, and the city attorney will speak to the findings.
Mr. City Attorney, on special one.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'll recite the facts as presented to me by the maker of the motion for the council's consideration of the adequacy of the findings. Since the posting of today's agenda, eviction notices have been served on a tenant who recently re-entered a portion of the location that is the subject of the First Street Viaduct and Street Widening Project. Immediate action is required to transfer funds and receive grant funds before March 12th, due to the City Council recess March 7th through March 13th. Council must first make findings pursuant to Government Code Section 54954.2 before considering the substantive motion.
Is there anybody else who'd like to speak on the findings? Seeing none, let's go ahead and open the roll on the findings, close the roll, and tabulate the vote.
14 ayes.
That is now before us. Mr. Parks.
Thank you, Mr. President. This is in behalf of Mr. Weezar and Mrs. Perry. Basically, as was stated in the findings, there is a need to move forward on this. This is no impact on the general fund, as these are funds recovered through grants. Primarily, the front money is Prop C money, and in order to continue this project of street widening that impacts the rail system, we should move forward on this, and this is more than appropriate to ask for an aye vote.
Thank you, Mr. Parks. Please open the roll, close the roll, and tabulate the vote.
14 ayes.
All right, that is approved. Next order of business, please. Forthwith without objection. Yes.
Council has motions for posting and referral.
Those motions are posted and referred.
There are excuses on the desk. Councilmember Cardenas requests to be excused Wednesday, April 16th for city business. That meets council policy.
All right, Mr. Cardenas is excused.
Councilmember Smith requests to be excused for the meetings of March 25th, 26th, 28th, as well as the meetings of April 1st, 2nd, 4th, 8th, 9th, 11th, 15th, 16th, and 18th, all for city business. A motion is required for April 16th.
Okay, that takes us down to 11.
That would be 11 on that day.
I will move that. Ms. Gruhl seconds. Without objection, that excuse is granted.
And Councilmember Zine requests to be excused to arrive at 10:45 on April 1st for city business. That meets council policy.
Okay, that excuse is granted.
That clears the desk.
All right, any announcements of a business nature?
I want to say the 23rd Annual Los Angeles City Marathon was successfully run. I walked it. I walked from Lankershim and Ventura Boulevard there over to Sunset and Vine. But it was a good 4-mile walk, but it was a wonderful event for over 24,000 people. I want to congratulate the marathon organizers and our very own Wendy Gruhl, then acting mayor, I believe, at the moment, started the race for the women runners. I started for those in the wheelchair. And also our very own Councilman Park started the main race. So it was an exciting day to see the point-to-point marathon run through the city of Los Angeles, including the historic 6th Street Bridge.
Thank you. Are there any adjourning motions today, colleagues? Any adjourning? If I could ask everybody to please rise for adjourning motions.
I had a guy figure war today still on one of those bicycles.
And since we always go left to right, we'll start right to left. If I can ask everybody please rise in council chambers for our adjourning motions. And we'll start with Mr. Wesson.
Oh, thank you, Mr. President and members. I believe most of us around this horseshoe are parents, so it's always a tragic occurrence when we adjourn in the memory of a youngster. I know for myself, I can't even go to bed at night till I know all of my sons are home, and my youngest is 25 years old. But on Sunday, a young man who went to the high school where my brother graduated, Los Angeles High School, was a running back, star running back. In fact, he was the most valuable player in the Southern League. Jamil Shaw Jr. was gunned down. And what makes it really just, my skin crawls when I think about it, his father was talking to him on the cell phone, and or when that was done, he was speaking with his girlfriend on the cell phone, and two gentlemen jumped out of the car and asked him a gang question, and when he tried to get away, he was shot and he was killed. The father heard the gunshots and ran out of his house, and right around the corner envisioned finding the flesh of your flesh laying on the street, dead. I spoke to the father, Jamil Shaw Sr., today. He's in, the family's holding up. This young man's mother was on her second tour of duty in Iraq. She was a sergeant, or is a sergeant, and she will be home sometime today. So I would ask that all of us adjourn in the memory of this young man, a life that was, too short. And just as an aside, it's just terrible. The father had received, was contacted by Stanford University and by Rutgers, who had an interest in this young man. So he was really on his way of having a very productive life, a life that any mother or father would be proud of. So I ask that we adjourn in the memory of Jamal Shaw Jr.
Thank you. We'll do all members. Mr. Parks, and if I could please ask everybody to rise in council chambers out of respect for those folks. You can please stand up. Thank you. Mr. Parks.
Thank you, Mr. President. Let me ask that we adjourn in memory of Kenneth D. Wade II, passed away Friday, February 29th. He was born and raised in Virginia, graduated from the Heritage High School in Virginia, moved to Los Angeles at a later time, became a very active volunteer and member of its church as a volunteer deacon, elder, usher, and also a greeter. He, upon arriving in Los Angeles, became a graduate of the American Academy of Dramatic Arts, worked full-time as an actor, stand-up comedian, producer, writer, but his list of volunteer work is significant. In 2001, for the City of LA, he was named Volunteer of the Year. He also received an award from the American United Flags Across America as a runner. In 2002, he's California's Legislator's Citizen of the Year. 2002, is nominated for a Nobel Peace Prize. 2003, California Humanitarian of the Year. In 2004, he was the National Campaign for the Torrance honorable name on the wall in Montgomery, Alabama. And in 2006, he received the Martin Luther King Jr. National Memorial name on the Historical Roll of Honor in Washington, D.C. He had been named Volunteer of the Year for over 20 organizations. He's survived by his parents and several other family members. I also ask that we adjourn in memory of Maria Delgado. She passed away on March 2nd, 2008 from a stroke, and she is the grandmother of my previous legislative deputy, Noel. The services viewing will be held tomorrow night at the mortuary at 11015 Downey. The funeral will be held at St. Vincent's on March the 6th at 10 a.m. on Adams Boulevard. Interment will be at Inglewood Park Cemetery.
Thank you. Mr. Labange. Oh, do you have another one, Mr. Parks? No. Mr. Labange. You okay? Okay. Any other adjourning motions, colleagues? If not, please, Mr. Clerk, call the roll.